All right, family. We black again, black power. This is the Truth Hour with General Cyrus Seti. Kick back, get your mind ready for some information that's guaranteed to be heavy. I'm excited and delighted to be accepting members to not only the Cyrus Seti YouTube page, but the General Seti YouTube page, two dynamic powerhouse institutions on YouTube, giving you nothing but black power, black divinity. I want you to subscribe immediately. Do not hesitate. I want you to become a member immediately. Do not hesitate. The link right down in the chat in the video description. All you have to do is just click it. You get a video introduction, rundown on the memberships, what they entail. You see one you like, you should most definitely join. Even if you don't, I appreciate your presence here at the Cyrus Seti General Seti YouTube page. Continue to engage, continue to advance. That's right, family. The General got a new website on Teachable, uploading a lot of dynamic curriculums, powerhouse programs, certificate courses. First one up, 25 steps to the redemption of definitive black manhood, designed by the General himself. I want you brothers to check it out. It's an amazing program. Also comes with the Brotherhood of Heru Round Table live stream where we meet once a week discussing very important, very powerful information pertinent to our growth and development. Nothing like it. It's there for you. Get up there, check it out, family. Go over the curriculum, and become a brother today. That's right. Ring the alarm, KingSeti.com, online marketplace, official General Cyrus Seti, DVD lectures, t-shirts, tank tops, hoodies, African and Kemetic jewelry, holistic tonics and remedies, home decor, accessories for every room in the house. Got something for you. I know you're going to like and love. Get that discount, shop and save and shop. Pull the fire alarm, generalseti.com, Seti University, over 2,500 videos, 40 different subjects, all the subjects that you know and love from the General. We're talking about when Kemet ruled the earth. We're talking about Olmeca voyages of the Nile. We're talking about Black Babylon, Mesopotamia. We got the Persian Empire, ancient Persian Empire, African, Greco-Roman history. They ain't telling you about. We got the black woman is God. We got so many that'll blow the mind. There's no website like it on the planet. Nothing can compare, compete, become a member today. Everybody knows that he popping on Patreon. Got the popping page on Patreon. We got that fire up there right now. Why ice people never worship sun gods is powerful, is smoking, is on fire. Get over there, click that Patreon button, become a patron today. To all the family that donated to the General, I thank you. I appreciate you for the fact you appreciate me. Any of the family out there would like to donate to the hardworking General, we up. We touching on this information so that our people know what it is. Click that donate, subscribe, hit the like button, like it because you love it. Share it with your family and friends and comment. Just don't say nothing stupid because I will ban your ass. So here we go again. We're dealing with the brother Ibrahim Traore. And so who's just, I see as the second coming of Thomas Sankara, who was a revolutionary in his time. I believe they assassinated the brother back in the early 80s or mid 80s, assassinated him because he was doing a lot of what the good brother Ibrahim is trying to do right now. You see, he's doing trying to, and they some years behind. They should have been, if they would have stayed under the brother Thomas Sankara, ain't no telling where Burkina Faso would be right now. But they still right now they on the right track under this good brother, taking the land back, taking the resources back, kicking them goddamn colonialists out of it. We ain't sharing shit with you. Don't got to, ain't gonna do it. Get y'all ass up. And a lot of people's is nervous because shit, if our people start taking, ain't no telling. Might clean up Northern Africa too. You see what I'm saying? Get in there and get what's ours and get their ass and get some more of that land back. Move northward. And then they nervous about that. So you got to know that, they're gonna be colluding, where enemies, sometimes enemies for a common cause and a common good, they'll come together to try to achieve something. So, like I say, the Arabs up there in Algeria, running Algeria, very racist. Don't want black people to even come in, into Algeria. Is our land any goddamn way, but don't want black people to come into the land. And so that's an indicator that it's time for them to, to get their goddamn passport up out of here. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? A pine box. That's gonna be the passport, the pine box. But so he's got a lot of that I see, and I say how I feel about the political situation. I've already been talking about West Africa before he even got moving the way that he's moving now. He's in there good, and he's making some real serious moves, and that's good. But knowing what the adversary's gonna come with, the jihadists, the ISIS and the Al Qaeda, they in there and they causing a lot of disruption, and a lot of them, are being backed by some of them Arabs up there in the north. They've given them refuge in the Sahel. They didn't give they're giving them refuge in the Sahel. And so they trying to they trying to do the conquest thing too. They over there trying, but they doing it for the air, and that's how they getting rich. A lot of the wealth that they got up in Northern Africa, Libya, Egypt, Algeria, yeah, they getting it the same way the white man in Europe getting it, the French and the Americans, the German, and all the rest of them. They fleecing the southern regions of the resources, and so that's why they in there. So both of them, the Arab and the imperialist Arabs up north, the Europeans, the French, the German, the Belgian, the British, all of them got their hand in what's going on in Africa as far as the resources and and the wealth of Africa, and they've been doing that since the last 200 and some odd years. Okay, so it's time for it to come. Africa has got almost 1.56 billion, 7 billion billion people, and there's no way that they could continue to let these Europeans and these Arabs fleece Africa of its mineral wealth and economic wealth. How do you intend to build infrastructure for that that large of a population? And Africa is growing at such a rapid rate that they got to be working on that infrastructure now. You know what I'm saying? They got to, and without really, you're going to starting now, because if you don't, you're going to have, you're going to have hundreds of millions of people without infrastructure, and that's going to be deplorable. And we're trying to move past that. So you got to look into the future, and you got to make the preparation. And so we got to have the paper. We got to have the resources. We got to, be able to train our people to be able to do this for themselves and shit. Because even right now, we have to contract China. We got to contract Russia. If you don't want to work with the United States, cool. But who you gonna work? So they working with China, and they working with, but that's gonna run out at some point in time. A Cro-Magnon Neanderthal is a Cro-Magnon Neanderthal. I don't give a goddamn which one you deal with. Yeah, they'll work with you now because it's in their interest to work with you now. Because the United States is putting tariffs on them, taxing them, and so they can come in with a smile on their face since they're against the United States and you against the United States. You think it's some camaraderie there, and you'll work for a minute, and then come 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you be in the same goddamn boat you was in with the United States. So, we got to have to become solely independent in everything we need, and we just have to train our people, to be able to do these things. But so not only has the infrastructure in our communities, it's really, we don't have no infrastructure, but having the type of universities teaching the type of sciences and skills that we need, a lot of that is not there. And so, you had the mercy, but whatever you had to do it quietly, pay for these people to go to school and learn some of these things, and come back and open up institutions where we can train our own people to, manufacture, engineer, and do these things for themselves. So we don't have to be at the mercy. We cannot be, like Dr. Clark say, 2 billion beggars. Can't do that. Can't be in that predicament. So we got to look ahead, and the brother Ibrahim is coming with, that type of energy. I see these, these Caucasians here, right here in the United States and France, and they gonna collude like a motherfucker, because they gonna collude. That's all it is to it. They gonna collude. So, and so you don't know where it's coming from. It could come from all different, directions. It can come from, let me make sure everything. Let me see how. Okay, we good. Yeah, so it can come directly. I don't think the United States go, you see right here, you actually, he's from the CCP, I mean. Yeah, yeah. Well, you know what? Things happen in due time. Things happening in due time. Our people done been in prison. Their minds been in prison for so long. But I see, that they, it got to wake up at some point, because, it's getting hotter and hotter. You know what I'm saying? It's getting hotter and hotter. So either you're going to wake up, you're going to unite, or you're going to die. They're just as simple as that. You're going to unite, or you're going to die. And I believe that the people was going to make the necessary decision to unite, and stretch their hand and bring about this global African supremacy. We're going to listen and to what, let's watch this video, and they're going to give us a little rundown on what the good brother Ibrahim has got popping off over there in Burkina Faso. Let's check it out.
In a nationally televised speech earlier this week, the Prime Minister declared that the country will expand state control over foreign-owned mines.
I'm calling them out, but Captain Traore and...
His words echoed across the Sahel.
Let me get it.
In the heart of West Africa, a quiet revolution is taking shape, one that may redefine how a nation taps into its golden wealth. Burkina Faso, a country long known for its rich gold deposits and troubled political landscape, has launched an ambitious push to nationalize more of its industrial mining sector. And if Prime Minister Jean-Emmanuel Ouedraogo's latest announcement is any indication, this is only the beginning. In a nationally televised speech earlier this week, the Prime Minister declared that the country will expand state control over foreign-owned mines, reclaiming what he described as the people's wealth. His words echoed across the Sahel.
Yeah, that's got to be done. Foreign control mines? That can't be. How in the hell is that even possible? You see what I'm saying? That should no way in the head, no way be possible. You have for mines? What kind of shit is going on? So that most there, and I'm glad they made that move. Yeah, that was very necessary. No way. Boy, these Neanderthals is a motherfucker, man. You feel me? They a motherfucker gonna own some shit in another man's land. Let's work out, family.
To international markets, unsettling foreign investors but thrilling citizens who have long watched billions of dollars in gold leave the country with little to show for it. Ouedraogo said that the country should see more of the benefits of mining in Burkina Faso, not just the consequences that the population suffers. At the center of this shift is SOPAMIP, Société de Participation Minière du Burkina, a newly created state-owned mining enterprise tasked with acquiring stakes in strategic mining projects. In just months, SOPAMIP has already taken control of two major industrial gold mines, Boungou and Wagner, previously owned by London-listed Endeavour Mining. At the heart of this push is gold. Gold prices have skyrocketed over 25% this year, driven by geopolitical volatility and unpredictable trade policies under U.S. President Donald Trump. For a country sitting atop an estimated 70-plus tons of annual gold potential, the math is simple. Sovereignty equals revenue. Despite grappling with a brutal Islamist insurgency since 2015, Burkina Faso produced over 57 tons of gold in 2023, making mining one of its most vital economic engines. Yet much of that wealth has historically flowed to foreign companies, with Canada's IAMGOLD and Australia's West African Resources limited among the top players.
Ain't that a bitch? See, that's how, people be talking and think Canada, thinking that they over there too with they wicked ass. Yeah, old Canada over there with they wicked ass. They ain't nothing but another extension of the beast. People be trying to fake that funk like Canada, some old little small, irrelevant ass. They over there in Africa being a colonizer too. Yeah. They on some bullshit. Yeah. Hold on, let me go. Let me see that
over
again.
57 tons of gold in 2023, making mining one of its most vital economic engines. Yet much of that wealth has historically flowed to foreign companies, with Canada's IAMGOLD and Australia's West African Resources limited among the top players. But that
Canada and Australia.
Last year, the country rewrote its mining code, putting local suppliers and Burkina the expertise at the forefront. The new legislation not only empowered SOPAMIP, but introduced incentives for artisanal mining and mandated reinvestment into the economy. The government also announced the creation of Burkina Faso's first national gold reserve, a symbolic and strategic move to ensure long-term fiscal stability. A senior official close to the Prime Minister emphasized that the ongoing reforms go beyond mere economic changes, describing them as a broader pursuit of national pride, self-determination, and fairness.
It look like they got some things going on. That's about a 22-minute video. I ain't gonna play it all, but I'm most definitely gonna come back and play some more of it tomorrow. I want to I got a couple, 2 or 3 more other videos, a little shorter, but I see what they doing. I like how they look like they got a good administration in there. I'm loving that. You feel me? Taking the gold back, making sure that it go to the benefit of the nation. Peoples is eating. The standard of living goes up. People got housing, got infrastructure, got food, and that the revenue from the resources is going back into building up the nation. Loving that. You see, hopefully the rest of the nations around Africa, in the region, can follow the brothers' lead and get Africa together. Sick of let's get it together. We can do it, and it comes with kicking them goddamn colonialists out of there. Now we're gonna get in here and look at this, and we got this is Coonley, Commander Coonley, y'all. Thank you, family.
Know that both.
Here we go.
Whether it's the their gold reserves, that is all those proceeds are just in exchange to
Listen to this.
my
This and this big
absolutely,
milk.
Chairman. I see this, and I don't mind calling them out, but Captain Traore and Burkina Faso, as they know that both. Whether it's the their gold reserves, that is all those proceeds are just in exchange to protect the junta regime.
What the fuck what is you worried about it for? You motherfuckers been over there thieving and robbing Africa for the longest. and you got enough nerve to fix your lips to get up there and say what he doing is his land. Whatever they do with the land, and the peoples is supporting the brother Ibrahim. And so why would we even question, and they laying out such a powerful program where they reinvest in the money into you mad because they didn't kick your black ass out. Well, then you ain't black, you understand? They didn't kick your white ass out. You see, and so that's really what it boiled down. You can't get free resources. You can't get free resources. You can't get yeah, yeah, yeah. You can't get free resources. That's what it boiled down. Praise the ancestors that the day has come. I hope the rest of the African nations fall right in line. No foreign owned mines. Yeah, no foreign owned mines. None of that. We got to stop that. No, you can't own nothing in Africa. It's for the land. The land is belong to the people.
There's a number of examples across. Even in Sudan, what's going on with the rapid support forces and in Burhan of the Sudan forces, when you get down to it, it's all about the revenue that can be drawn out of that. And there are nefarious actors in the CCP or in sometimes Russia are complicit in those activities.
Okay, well, you can't imagine how frustrating it seems to me that this mineral-rich continent has not been able to move.
Oh, cracker. You need to just go somewhere and sit your ass down. All you have to do is keep your diseased mind about Africa. Africa be all right. Here we go.
Revolves around central themes.
Look at this nigga. This nigga here.
AFRICOM's campaign revolves around central themes of ensuring strategic access, countering threats to the homeland and U.S. interests, preparing for and responding to crisis, and lastly, bolstering our allies and partners.
Well, where the fuck was you when Rwanda went down, motherfucker? Shit, what the fuck is you talking about? What y'all doing though? What about Sudan? What's going on? I don't need you to do nothing. But that just show you how you're lying. What's going on? Sudan been in a civil. See, that must not be your interest. You see, only if it ain't got no gold, you can exploit, or no cobalt, no uranium and plutonium. If you ain't got none of that we can fleece from you, then you ain't of our interest. But when it comes to the lives of African people that might be in threat of a regional war, such as the war going on in Sudan, you ain't nowhere to be found, because you really ain't about, preserving the life of African people over there. You over there to get the resources. So, nigga, don't come in here with that bullshit. Don't even come in here with your, what's his name?
This campaign places our African partners at the center, achieving
good times.
Positive
change
like by executing
African-led
and U.S.-enabled operations focused on our shared objectives. In Africa, modest investments and resources go a long way towards achieving our national security interests. Africa faces many challenges, but also offers even more opportunities towards achieving our national security interests. Modest investments and resources go a long way towards achieving our national security interests. Africa faces many challenges. Executing African-led and U.S.-enabled operations focused on our shared objectives. In Africa, modest investments and resources go a long way towards achieving our national security interests. Africa faces many challenges, but also offers even more opportunities. With our African partners at the forefront, reinforced by our efforts and the efforts of our allies, we will continue to gain ground towards achieving lasting stability, security, and prosperity on this crucial continent.
Yeah, they got something up their sleeve. Yeah, they got something up their sleeve. They don't want to, just like Panama, they didn't They done went down there and forced their hand. Anything that they think that, you know, China or Russia can get access, they gon' so you already know the CIA is in Africa. So that's gonna be Brother Ibrahim's threat. The CIA in there trying to get his own regime to trade on him, see if they can get some of his closest advisors, his bodyguards, his ministers to go against him. If they can't do that, they're gonna fund the jihadists, the Islamic terrorists that's in Africa, the ISIS, the Al Qaeda. And then they're gonna be in cahoots. I'm telling you, they're gonna be in cahoots with them Arabs in the north, that especially that one in Algeria, because they know once they kick the goddamn the Europeans out of there, they ass is next, because they doing really the same shit. And then they the ones that's really funding, and they helping to fund them motherfucking jihadists too, right along with France. You know, it's to their interest, because I see where they strike into West Africa, into Nigeria. They strike into Mali. They strike into all them areas in West Africa, but they giving refuge in the southern regions of many of them Arab nations up there, and they don't say too much. They know they out there in the desert somewhere. They got setups, they got camps, but it's because they don't want Africans coming into Northern Africa in, and that shit sound crazy. That they don't want Africans coming into Northern Africa, so they allow the buffer zone, the Sahel, which is between Northern Africa and West, the Central African nations. That's a buffer zone. So they allow these Islamic jihadists to have refuge in these areas and in the southern portions of they stolen nations, such as Algeria, such as Libya, because the guy that Ibrahim, who they kicked up out of there, he was from Libya. He wasn't even from Burkina Faso. He wasn't even from Burkina Faso. That motherfucker was from Libya. You see, and we know the Libyans is also heavily influenced by the French. Influenced by the French. So, said you on the same tip in America as he is in the. Well, man, I mean, if you love your people, you got to do what's right and say what's right. You got to do what's right and say what's right. That's all it is to it. You only here for a minute. You got to do what's right and say what's right. And much of what we teach has already been taught by the family. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, we're gonna get back on. Yeah, Libya's got a lot to do with it. Well, you know what? Them Arab nations, they just like the European, they all colonialists. That war in Sudan is being funded by Egypt, being funded by Libya. You see, because they know Southern Sudan got a lot of resources, and that's what they in there. That the Janjaweed, which they call the rapid, or whatever they call that shit today, they didn't change the name. Yeah, they didn't change it, but it ain't nothing but the Janjaweed, nothing but mercenaries. The Arabs didn't hide to go in there and commit genocide on the people, and so that's what's happening. And so that this brother Ibrahim is taking the lead, but a lot of other he gonna have to watch. Not only do we got to watch his own inner circle, CIA gonna be in there. You see, gotta watch that. Gotta watch the Arabs to the north. Gotta watch the jihadists that the Arabs in the north allow give refuge in the southern regions of them lands. You see, you gotta watch the Arabs that is closely connected to France, United States, but more France, because they historically have had their hands in that area, Algeria, Libya, even Morocco, them areas. But I heard Morocco is for, they taking a stance with West Africa. Yeah, so, but those is going to be the, the various, threats, to his success. But we're gonna keep updating, and I most definitely, give my take on it, what I see, what's gonna be his biggest hurdle to success, because we want the brother to be successful, but he most definitely is up against a wicked world that has historically, assassinated African leaders that take this type of stance, and I'm quite sure he know that. I'm quite sure. And lastly, Negro leaders that are already on the payroll of the Arab or the European, and it's some of them over there. It's some of them over there. So you got to, you got to be careful of them. But once you get you get the nation rolling, you get some damn, upgrade that military. Yeah, yeah. Upgrade that military, and so while you do got some access to China and into to Russia, most definitely upgrade. Get some airplanes. Yeah, be able to drop some bombs on some motherfuckers, man. Straight up. Be able to drop some bombs on some motherfuckers. Get you some tanks. You know what I'm saying? Get you some tanks. Get you a missile defense system. Yeah, get you a missile defense system, Make, shit, and build them tanks up. That's gonna make a lot of motherfuckers nervous. That's gonna make a lot of motherfuckers nervous. Drones too. All of that. Time to modernize, as you build that infrastructure up, modernize that shit and you ain't that far from France. Be able to touch their monkey ass if they feel like, Yeah, you got the you're gonna have to get rid of some people. That's just all it is to it. Yeah, but you want to be able to, yeah, you got to have a defense though. You got to have a military, and you got to have some shit, have you you got access to China and Russia, get you a defense, get you some missiles, man. Straight up. They fly that shit over there, make it a threat. Be able to knock some of that shit out. Get some of them what's that whatever that Russian missile defense system and shit. They got some, hey, get your hands on them. Make it hard for them to fly over. And just, and get some nigga that can go across. Yeah. And get something that can go across that goddamn Mediterranean and shit and reach up there and and as a means to let them know if you bring your ass down here that we could touch you. You see what I'm saying? Now you want them kind of goddamn problems, then you'll get them. But if you don't want them, we ain't looking to have to use it in an offensive manner, only defensive. But if you come down here, you can't be touched. That's what they respect. They don't respect nothing else. So you don't just build infrastructure. Anything you do, people say, what is the essentials? And people always talking about food, clothing, and shelter. Yeah, food, clothing, and shelter, and defense. What's food? Because if you ain't got no defense, you ain't got no military, motherfucker gonna come down there and take your food, your clothing, and your shelter. So that ain't just the essentials. Food, clothing, shelter, and military. An educational system that can continue to teach the value of all, for, and there's other essential, but those right there, food, clothing, and shelter, infrastructure, military, those are the essentials that continue to have the standard of life in the nation at a standard of living where people is living good. They living reasonably good. Energy is also where you got the resource. And so, I know they out there. I don't know. I got to get in. I'm going to look at Burkina Faso. I'm going to look at the geography and see what type of waterways and rivers and see what kind of dams, if they do have any dams or whatever. But if you got that kind of money or gold, and it's nothing, I'm quite sure that, and I'm just saying you got to use them for what they're worth, that you can get maybe, to China or Russia to, help build some dams down there. But using African engineers, you got to have a certain amount of African engineers and workers so they can get into what it feels like to be in a project like that. So these projects that where they building, dams and infrastructure, that you have enough African workers and engineers and masons and skilled laborers on them jobs, where it's also while you building infrastructure, you training at the same time. You see what I'm saying? You training at the same time. You got enough of your peoples in there working on these projects, along with, whether it's the Chinese or the Russians, but you got enough of your people there on site where you getting trained at the same time, until where it come to a point where you didn't elevate it, certain of your people to the level where they could, they can lead, great projects, national projects like that, and get out of, so much of you, and use as less as you can, use as less as you can. Each time you move into a national or regional project, that if you say 50-50, you got 50 because you ain't got enough trained laborers to get in there and do the project, but so you make sure 50 this time. But the next time you get into a project, it should be 60, 55. It should be going up constantly to the point where it's damn near 75% of the workers is from the nation, and whatever other peoples that you need from outside to help you with the project, until you get to the point where it's 100% African, that where we are building our own infrastructure. We got the teachers, we got the universities that's teaching that, and it's gonna come down to engineering, building our own machinery to be able, where you can buy machinery, but they could cut that off at some point in time if you are not engineering your own machines to be able to bulldozers, cranes, and all that shit. You got to look into the future. You got to look into the future, and so you need to be engineering all of that. But in the meantime, you do what you can, but you make sure you got enough of your people on these national programs, these national agendas, infrastructure. You got to at least have 50% of the people out there from the nation. You know what I'm saying? And training them and making sure they train and come back and training more and more until you got a nice, you got a nice collection of citizens that, ready to go to work and build up not only Burkina Faso, but other African nations around it, other African. That's right. Watch out for the double ages. That's where it's going to come down. All right, family. I appreciate y'all. We've been up tonight. Please support the general. Hit some of them links over there. We got that file on Patreon. We got other websites that you can support the general. Make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, share it with your family and friends. We'll be black tomorrow. I'm gonna do some research on what's going on over here. And man, come on over here and let's get this work. And hopefully this movement for liberation and upliftment can become infectious amongst black people all over the world. Arm yourself with knowledge. Bang on that wicked ass beast daily. Liberation through African education and confrontation. Black power.